you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to all the witnesses for being here today. I appreciate you coming here. As we discuss fiscal responsibility, which is a very important topic, I want to dive into some of the details of the Trump tax cuts because I hear about this a lot from my constituents. So the tax cuts enacted under the first Trump administration were skewed to the very wealthy. That's the reality. And this angers a lot of Americans who understand that we do not have tax fairness in this country. And because of that, it's not just that the economy suffers, it's not just that the deficit increases, but the health of the democracy suffers. And American families struggle because of this. And it's estimated by the Center on the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities that 2025 households with an income in the top 1% will get on average a tax cut of over $60,000. But if you're in the 0.1%, you'll get a tax cut of over $250,000. Meanwhile, those in the lowest earning bracket will get back about $70, 70 measly bucks. So flashback to 2017, Trump officials claimed that at a minimum, the law would lead to a $4,000 increase in household income. This didn't happen. What did happen was that workers earning under $114,000 a year saw basically no increase in earnings from the tax cut. But the wealthy sure got richer. Now we have a situation where Trump is coming in for a second administration. He wants to go even further this time. He doesn't just want to extend the tax cuts, he wants to further cut the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15%. And he said that tariffs should replace the income tax, which will, of course, fall on the folks who can least afford to pay for it. Working class families, middle class families, they're going to pay more on higher goods. I don't think that most Americans want a trade war that's going to drive up the cost of groceries and other household goods. They want us to make life more affordable for them, not more expensive. So yeah, I think we should talk about fiscal responsibilities. My colleagues have spent decades pushing deficit-funded tax cuts that benefit the wealthy and corporations. From the Bush tax cuts and the Trump tax cuts, we've talked about it here, it has increased trillions and trillions of dollars to the debt. Americans do not want cuts to Social Security and Medicare. They don't want cuts to food programs that feed hungry kids. They don't want cuts to Medicaid that helps seniors afford care in nursing homes. What they do want, they want tax fairness. I hear this over and over again. What they do want is for the Pentagon to actually finally pass an audit so that American taxpayers don't keep getting ripped off by companies in the defense industry. What they want is for the wealthy to pay more and for them to feel like there is some fairness here. In 1973, the top 1% took home 9% of the income in the US. Today, the top 1% takes home nearly 27% of the income in the US. Again, from 9% in 1973 to 27% today. This gross economic disparity is terrible for individual Americans. It's terrible for families. It's bad for the democracy. It erodes civil society. They just want fairness. They want us to pass a tax code that helps regular people and closes capital gains loopholes that benefit the very wealthy. Middle-class families already bear too much of the tax burden because of unfair tax codes. I want to paraphrase former Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis, because I keep coming back to this. We can have a democracy, or we can have most of our country's wealth in the hands of just a few Americans, but we can't have both. They're on a collision course. So Dr. Elmendorf, I support raising the top capital gains and dividend rate back to the rate under President Ronald Reagan. Would this help us to put a dent in our debt?
Yes, Congresswoman, raising those tax rates would raise tax revenue for the government and therefore reduce the deficit and the debt over time. But again, I would repeat a caution from earlier, which is that the amount of the benefit there for the government's budget outlook would be fairly small relative to the overall imbalance that we have all been talking about.
It's certainly not a silver bullet, but it goes to the issue of tax fairness.
I think it goes to the issue of tax fairness. I don't know the specific numbers you've been referring to, but you are correct that income inequality has increased substantially over the last several decades in this country, and that an important counterweight to that is the progressive nature of the tax code. And the 2017 Tax Act gave particularly large benefits to higher income people relative to lower income people, and an extension of that would have that same effect again.
I thank you for being here. I thank you all.